What's happening, guys? Welcome along to another episode of 420 News. It's Monday, guys, start of a new week. Hope everybody's doing really good out there. I had a lovely weekend myself anyway, guys. I hope you all did too. Guys, 420 News brought to you by Martin's World. I'm your show host, Martin Condon. Guys, it's 420. It's still 420, and yes, I got my old trusty tool of civil disobedience here beside me, otherwise known as a bong. And it is packed up with my herb of choice for this type of protest. So happy 420, guys. It's less than a week away, actually, just more than a week away. Tomorrow it'll be exactly 1 week to the all-important day for the cannabis community, where we will be out right across the world and hopefully right across the island of Ireland, protesting for our right to access this plant. So happy 420, guys. So there we go, guys. The protest continues. And I suppose in line with that, the first bit of news I have for you today, guys, is news of another cannabis campaigner out there and also a guest of the show in the past, John Regan. John Regan, as the headline says here, I'm just going to put her over a bit more. Excuse me. Cannabis campaigner John Regan is back in court tomorrow and he will hunger strike if sent to prison. So John Regan, guys, if you don't know, here's the beautiful man himself, surrounded by some of our finest Gardaí. This photo was taken above in Ennis Court a number of months ago when I attended in support of John in his previous case where he was up for growing cannabis and possessing cannabis. Well, John is up again, despite the last time, I believe it was like a €700 fine he got, a conviction, but he was allowed to walk out of the court. He went home and he started growing cannabis again, and the pesky guards went down and raided him again, unfortunately. You think the guards would have known at this stage like that. John, he's not a drug dealer, he's not some big drug baron, he was just a man who liked cannabis and he didn't want to deal with criminals out there, so he decided to grow his own. And the Gardaí not once but multiple times have raided his home. They've stopped and searched this man walking down the road. They're just straight up harassing him at this point for being a cannabis consumer. It's ridiculous. Like, yes, cannabis is illegal, but you know what he's doing is not morally wrong. The laws around cannabis being illegal actually is more morally wrong than John's actions. So I will be supporting John again. If he does go on a hunger strike, I'll be straight up there outside of whatever prison they'll be holding him at, and I'll be staging my protest there. If that means that 420 is going to be held up outside of the prison, when we will relocate the protest, and I've no problem with doing that for John. So just let it be said, tomorrow, keep listening out, if John ends up in prison, I'll be relocating the 420 protest from Cork to whichever protest or to whichever prison John will be at, and it won't be just a one-day affair. I'll be bringing my tent with me and we'll be pitching up there because we should all be we're all in this together, and we should all get out and support people like John who are fighting for the cause. If you haven't already seen it, guys, I did have, as I say, have John on the podcast, not once but twice, but here you can see, or you can just about see it. John was on episode 21 if you want to go back and catch up with John and find out more about him. A great man, you know, and it's very unfortunate that our Gardaí, who are supposed to protect us, are trying to protect us from him. He's no threat at all to us. Like, you know, the man has more to give to society that he never take. So well done, John. I wish you all the best in that, and I will be paying attention. And as I say, I will be out supporting you if you do end up in prison, man. We don't want to see we don't want to see people go down like that. And I suppose other news, I suppose myself, I was out protesting yesterday, guys. Or not yesterday, on Saturday. Many of you might have seen it already, but I was up at Micheál Martin's house there, or his office in the city here, and I brought him a cannabis plant, and I don't know, has he received it? The media hasn't reported on it yet, although Martin's or 420 News is covering it here now. But I thought that would have been a newsworthy piece. Cannabis campaigner brings fucking cannabis plant to the office of the Taoiseach of Ireland. But no, sadly, they're ignoring it. There's other news out there that's more important to cover. But as I say, I've covered it here anyway. So we'll get on out of Ireland for a little bit, and we'll head on over to Dubai, because that's where the next headline is coming out of, Dubai. And I suppose it's no secret that they have kind of harsh laws over there in some regard anyway. But in this news story, it's a man faces 3 years in jail in Dubai for consuming cannabis before entering the country. Crazy to think, like, but it's something I've mentioned on the show before, where I actually read a story very similar to this going back a couple of years ago. But this one very much reminded me of it, and it's an American man who'd been arrested in Dubai after traces of cannabis which he'd smoked legally at home because he's from America. And it's a state, he's from Las Vegas, so the state of Nevada, where cannabis is legal. And he was consuming it there legally. He flew back to Dubai thinking there wasn't going to be any issues. But when he got back to Dubai, what actually happened, it wasn't at the airport he got intercepted or anything. The man fell ill. He got sick. He fell ill with pancreatitis. Like I couldn't imagine that's a nice thing to fall ill with. And he required emergency treatment at the hospital. And when he arrived at the hospital for the emergency treatment, the medics took a urine sample and they drug tested him for some strange reason. Like, you know, I'm not too sure what the reasoning was there, but that's a complete invasion of the man's privacy. And they drug tested him. They found residue traces of cannabis, and the hospital staff then reported him to the police. And the cops showed up at the hospital and arrested him at the hospital. Absolutely crazy. Like, the man is in there to be taken care of. He's sick, and they unknowingly to himself, like they tested him for drugs, like, and then they reported him to the cops. It's crazy to think of what's going on over there, and the notions, but what the notions that put this into place. Like, really, like, what kind of an individual are you? Is this actual hospital policy over there in Dubai? Any person who comes in to receive health treatment needs to undergo a drug test. Because if they're using drugs illegally, we need to arrest them after we treat them or their health. I don't know, but actually in this case, the man didn't even receive proper treatment, because when he got arrested, he was refused access to the drugs prescribed to him by the hospital. Crazy. While he was arrested by the cops over there, he's after losing a tremendous amount of weight. It was a very distressing situation for the man to go through. The man named here Peter Clark. Do you know, absolutely crazy, man. If you're out there, Peter, if you want to come share your story here on the 420 News on Martin's World, do let me know, because I can't imagine that's a nice thing to go through. A man who consumed cannabis legally in one country flies to another country and he's criminalised for it. Like, not just criminalised, but criminalised after he fell ill and went to a hospital where he was supposed to be helped. What kind of help is this? Like, where you criminalise a man for consuming cannabis elsewhere too? It's crazy to think. A nightmare scenario to be found in. But it's not a new one either for Dubai, because, as I say, there was a couple of years ago where I read a story about a British DJ who had flew over there from the UK, and it was around Christmas time. He went home for Christmas time, and the man wasn't identified in the news story. His name was just given as AY, and he was a 30-year-old DJ from Britain. And when he was back in Britain, he consumed some cannabis around Christmas time, or he didn't even consume it. He said he was in a room where it was being consumed, and that's why it was in his system. But the authorities over there said, no, you consumed that here while you were here. And they locked him up. They were locking him up for 4 years. Crazy, like, to think that he got a 4-year sentence for that. There was also another DJ then, a more prominent DJ, a more well-known DJ. He went by the name DJ Groove, or what was it? I'm just looking at it here now, 1 second. Groove Rider, that's it. And that was back in 2008. Wherein a DJ, Groove Rider, was sentenced also to a 4-year prison sentence because he flew into the country where he had 2.16 grams of cannabis in his bag. He ended up spending 10 months in prison, and he was only released after receiving a special pardon from the then Dubai ruler Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. Crazy stuff. Like, 4 years that guy got, and the other guy got 4 years. As I say, in that case with the DJ AY, there wasn't enough there, the information out there as to what happened. Did he get released, or what was the story? Did he do the entirety of his sentence? I don't know, but crazy, like, to think that somewhere out there, there's a guy who's about to be, or is being held because he has had cannabis in his system. mad to think, like, but you know, I'd imagine that the Mary Cannons out there think that this is a good use of the authorities' resources. You know, and if you don't know Mary Cannon, then lucky you. I'll say it fucking no more. Because look, we'll just drive on with the news. Otherwise, I'll start ranting about those people, and I don't think those people need to get any more attention than they're already seeking with their prohibitionist fucking nonsense. Oh. And what's happening out there? Mastowis says, feck prohibition. Mastowis, you're a legend there as always with the super chat supporting the show, man. Thanks very much for that. And Bitcoin as Power is out there as well. He says he loved doing the Howard Marks special at the weekend. Really enjoyable. It was a pleasure to have you on as well, Graham. So much respect there, and much appreciation. Sorry for coming on and giving me your time. Other comments out there, guys, before I get back to the news. Best wishes there going to John from Ken. He says, we all behind you, John. Nice one there from that Ken. Oshin says, yeah, this Dubai story is ridiculous. Man, Dubai is crazy. Like, I'm definitely going to be avoiding that place, certainly, because I'm always going to have cannabis in my system. Like, do I have to abstain from cannabis for over a month just because I want to fly into Dubai? Crazy. Like, this is the shit that we as cannabis consumers have to face out there. Like, the discrimination, like, you know, if you fly into other countries, the laws are much harsher in other countries. Like, as I said, when I went to Thailand before, I was just like, no, I'm going to abstain from it over there. I just wasn't going to risk it. Fuck, man, if I thought Thailand would have locked me up for having it in my system, like, I would have guessed going over there. Like, I'd certainly going to be avoiding, like, Dubai with a 10-foot pole. Like, I'm not going next or near the fucking place. Not a hope. Like, and you know, is that what a country really wants for its for its country, towards its, like, how inviting it is to people out there? A nice one, Podge, there as well, for the super chat. Also, he says, hit that like and share button, guys, and keep her lit. Nice one, Podge. But as I say, like, is this what we want to be a message we want to be sending out to the rest of the world? You know, as I say, America, Canada, Uruguay, soon to be Mexico, a number of places with massive populations where cannabis is legal. And then an even increasing amount of places where their citizens have access to legal cannabis as a medicine. And those citizens can't fly to our country with that medicine currently. You would be blown away by the amount of people from America who contacted me over the years, who knew me as a campaigner through our cannabis club pages that I ran. And they were asking, you know, oh, I've got a legal prescription here in such and such a state. How can I bring my medicine to your country? I'm coming on a visit. Do I have to go without my medicine? Like, literally, that's a worry of them. And all of those people who contacted me, I gave them the number of, at the then time, I believe it was like Simon Coveney. I think he was our foreign affairs minister. Maybe he's still there. I'm not too sure. Sorry, forgive me for not knowing that. But I think that's who I sent him to at the time, because he was the foreign affairs minister. I was like, get on to this guy. He's the foreign affairs minister. Make him know of your situation, because this is bollocks. Like, no patients out there should be facing this discrimination going into any country because of their medicine they use that brings them benefit. It's crazy, like, but that's the situation we see ourselves currently in Ireland, where we discriminate against patients, we discriminate against just the cannabis community, and we let him get away with it, guys. But hopefully next Tuesday week, we won't let him get away with it. I hope right across Ireland we'll have numerous protests going on, and there's different forms of protests going on as well in that day. I see there's other campaigners out there engaging in different ones. If you can't make a protest, if you want to hold your own protest on the day, use the hashtag Cannabis Reform Ireland. So that's another one being pushed by campaigners out there. Yeah, Martin Horgan is saying here that he hopes that they don't behead your man over in Dubai. Me too, man. I really do too. I hope they don't either. But yeah, other news there as well, guys. I was sent in a message from a listener of the show, and that listener of the show shared with me a story of their niece. And I'm just going to read that out there to you guys, because it's worth reading out, and it's just a little experience of a patient here in Ireland, a patient experiencing chronic pain. So about a month ago, my niece, who was 25, went to a hospital with abdominal pain and was released with 4 different pain medications, one of which contains a high level of morphine. After taking these for some time, she was getting little or no relief, and numerous trips to the doctor and changes in her dosage and medication left her having to take time off work. and having to get a taxi also to transport her around, as she was either unable or felt it was not safe for her to drive. And a few weeks ago, she called to me crying, said she felt like she couldn't carry on like that, and asked if it was true that cannabis really helps with pain, and could I get her some to try. So I made her up made us up a cup of coffee and made 2 joints and gave them to her. We had a chat and shared a joint, and this was the first time she had smoked cannabis. Today again, she called crying, and she jumped on me. Instead of crying, she jumped on me, hugging and kissing my cheeks. She told me she had stopped taking her tablets since her chat, and had gone to her doctor and told him she no longer needed the pills, as she had found a holistic treatment that was working for her. And that's the story just sent in there from a listener of the show. So thanks very much for sharing that story. It's very worthwhile, guys, in sharing these stories. If there's other people out there and would like to share them either anonymously, or if you would like to even come on in person and share your own experience out there as to how cannabis has helped you and how it maybe helped you ditch other medication, or maybe it was even more beneficial than other medication, do let me know. I think all these stories are worthwhile sharing, because that currently doctors in Ireland aren't allowed to work with patients like this, and patients like this are at the mercy of criminals out there. Criminals who would use young kids to sell their drugs, and I think that's a nice segue on to the next story, because the next story is, this is the headline: a teen sentenced to 6 months for stealing a bicycle. But I suppose the backstory to this is that this teen was also a drug addict, as to his own words. He's a 14-year-old Dublin boy who was spending a phenomenal amount of money on drugs, as he said in court. The boy, who's now aged 15 actually, pleaded guilty at the Dublin Children's Court, unlawfully having bolt cutters and theft, which took place on a date last May. The Garda told that the bike was worth €550 and was locked outside a supermarket in North Dublin. The youth and another person came along with a bolt cutters, cut off the lock and stole the bike, and the CCTV identified the teenager, and the bicycle was not recovered at all. The boy had a total of 19 prior convictions and was detained in March for 2 months for a range of other offences, including drug dealing. The court had heard of how at the age of 13, the boy had been caught with more than €3,000 worth of cannabis and cocaine in his bedroom. 13 years of age, guys, right? 13, that's fucked up, literally 13, cannabis and cocaine. It's bad enough now, where his life is after going afterwards, getting into further crimes, stealing bikes and stuff like that will probably rob your young fella of the phone. This is not a 15-year-old you would like your young fella to bump into, but you can't help but think how this person was shaped and moulded by the individuals he would have interacted with while dealing drugs or while storing drugs for these people. How much did the prohibition of drugs help influence this young fella into the life of crime? If the prohibition of drugs was there, would this young fella have ever really got into this level of criminality? Maybe if we didn't have prohibition, maybe if we actually had cannabis legalized and the state was generating the money, there might have been enough services and stuff like that in the areas that this boy grew up in to help divert them away from this type of life. We waste so much money every bloody year pumping it into a failed war on drugs, when meanwhile, young fellas like this guy here are allowed off to their own devices because the services that are there to help divert them away from this kind of activity, they're underfunded. Many of them have to fundraise to help keep them going. Many of them are supported and funded by public communities and things like that. The state do little to support it, but the state will spare no expense really when it comes to funding our Gardaí and their failed war on drugs. The boys in the drug squad and all their overtime that they'll get fighting the drug gangs out there, the drug gangs who needn't exist. Because if we don't have illegal drugs in our society, then we won't have drug gangs in our society. Again, show me the tobacco gangs, show me the alcohol gangs out there. They're not there. Those things are sold by reputable sources, licensed sources where there's regulations in place where kids can't go in and buy it. And you don't really see enterprises being set up around selling those drugs to kids. You don't, because there's no market there for it. And the same thing will happen if you legalize and regulate other drugs like cannabis, even like cocaine and other drugs out there, ecstasy and things like that. If people had a legal avenue to go and get it, then there's going to be no market there for it for the criminals, and then that means the kids are protected because there's no market to sell these things to kids. Like if you that would mean you would have to sell it cheaper than what they are in the shops, really. Like, realistically. So there's no market there. Like, really, ending prohibition is the best thing we can do in this. Like, it goes on to say here that he claimed he was selling drugs to fund his own addiction. The council pleaded with the court not to add to the teen's existing sentence. Crazy. Like, the judge Gardaí was furnished with a probation report, and she remarked that he was spending a phenomenal amount on drugs. There was no offer of compensation for the injured party, she noted. She described the assessment report on the boy as moderate, and she noted it did not offer insight into remorse. She imposed a 6-month sentence on the boy, who was accompanied to court by a family member. And it's mad to think, like, that this young fella, it's out there and he's in the hands of criminals who will happily take him in and have him do their bidding for him. Crazy. Like, the best thing we can do, end prohibition, and we can really protect people like this young fella. Any comments out there in relation to this? Martin Horgan is saying, help me kick alcoholism, barbiturate addiction and tobacco when I was a teen. Well, there you go, man. It just really goes to show. Other guys out there, Dahi says, not the greatest place on the planet to be. God forbid you show affection, you can get locked up, or you have lips shaved off, and that's in reference to Dubai there. Monsieur Fudge, late notification was blazed. Time flies when you're having fun. Happy days. Welcome along, Monsieur. Moving along, so guys, because again, the next headline is kind of in relation to this last one, because it's involving again another minor in this situation, where a car which was being driven by an underage driver also had €4,000 worth of cannabis in it. This was a car that was spotted by Gardaí to be driven by a person who looked to be underage, so they pulled them in and they found the car to contain €4,000 worth of cannabis. Like, crazy. A tweet here from the Gardaí. Yeah, that's what I was looking for there. So there's the tweet from the Gardaí, because they love a good tweet, you know what I mean? They love to share their photo of it. And it says that the Naas Policing Unit and Clare Community Policing Unit in a joint operation intercepted a car driven by an underage driver this week. A search of the car discovered €4,000 of cannabis herb. A car was impounded and the driver arrested and detained. Well, to me, straight away, it says the driver was 16 or younger, because that's underage, I would imagine. I don't think they're referring to his age of consumption, because all consumption of cannabis is illegal, so there is no age. So it has to be an underage driver. And yeah, it says underage driver actually in the thing. So, like, it has to be 16 or under. Again, failings of prohibition, because under a model of regulation, this young fella wouldn't be able to get so much cannabis. At least you would hope he wouldn't be able to get so much cannabis. And there would be no point of him having so much cannabis, because he probably wouldn't be able to really sell it, because it wouldn't be worthwhile for him. Again, as I say, as a young fella, I never went to other young fellas to buy my alcohol. There was no market like with a young fella dealing alcohol to other young fellas. No, we went to an 18-year-old or somebody over 18. Hey, come here, will you go into the offie for us there? And that was how we got it. I'd imagine if we regulated cannabis, that's how it's going to be got. Crazy, like, you know, again, another young fella here in the hands of criminals dealing drugs, failings of prohibition again. I needn't say any more for this, like, because more news out there. Gardaí arrest 2, seize 4 vehicles and 1 kilo of cannabis in an organised crime operation. And in this operation, this happened on Saturday, where personnel attached to the Garda National Drugs and Organised Crime Bureau and Criminal Assets Bureau searched 10 locations in Duleek, Trim and Dublin. So again, a massive operation here again. Before we even get started, 10 locations searched, 3 units of our cops involved in it. Like, mad, like numerous personnel, numerous hours, like a load of overtime and all of this crack going into this, like, adding to the expense of the state. Meanwhile, you know, the youth diversion services out there, you know, the Jared Rose of the world, like, the amazing people out there, like, who could really help the young people, their services are going underfunded. Pity, like. prohibitionists out there would say, yeah, it's worth money. Yeah, it's worth the money. It's not like, kids are getting drugs. As I said, the last two stories, man, the 13-year-old and under 16 or 16 or under, like all access to drugs. Your prohibition has failed. But the locations consisted of both residential and business premises, and the Garda personnel were supported by the Garda dog unit also, and the stolen motor vehicle unit. So again, actually, before I move on, like a combination of criminals here, like, you've a drug dealing and a stealing of motor vehicles, two different things. So you have people who ask, oh, what will the criminals do if they do it? Well, these guys are just straight up criminals. They're out there robbing cars anyway, like, like he's just a criminal. You don't want him selling cannabis to anybody at all. He's a criminal. He's a scumbag. He's going to rob your car if that's what he's up to. Like, you don't want to be supporting that guy in business. Again, if this guy was a genuine interest in cannabis, he wouldn't be out there robbing cars. Do you see the connection of dots? You don't want to be strengthening these guys, because if this guy can sell cannabis, well, he gets a lot of cash. If he gets a lot of cash, well, he can probably buy in some more equipment that helps him steal more cars. He can probably hire a fucking team of car thieves to steal more cars, all backed or all built off of the prohibition of drugs. He's making a lot of money there doing that. He can finance this other hobby. Maybe he's more interested in stealing cars. But the four vehicles, along with a high number of a high value jewellery, during the searches, the Gardaí discovered and seized 60,000 in cash and 1 kilo of suspected cannabis resin with an estimated street value of €20,000. The four vehicles, along with a high number of high value jewellery and other property, was also seized. Two men aged in their 30s and 50s were arrested on their suspicion of involvement in money laundering, and they're also detained at Ballymun and Ashbourne Garda stations under Section 4 of the Criminal Justice Act. So again, I suppose, like, we look at who's benefiting from this, because the state is not really benefiting from it. Like, although the individuals involved in this operation, as in the units, they get to build upon their statistics. They also get to enter into like 60 grand in cash. That goes into the exchequer. Also the jewellery and stuff like that. That gets to be auctioned off, I'd imagine, by the Gardaí or the Criminal Assets Bureau, I'd imagine. They auction that stuff off, and they can probably use that money then to fund their own operations afterwards. I'd imagine that's what happens with that. But don't hold me to it. I haven't looked into that. But I do know the guards from time to time hold auctions at their lots for vehicles and stuff like this, I'd imagine. So they benefit big time from this. Again, there's going to be solicitors involved in this who are probably going to be paid from the proceeds of crime. They're all benefiting from this. The judges probably might get a bit of overtime. Maybe this case will be seen on a Saturday or something like that. All these guys benefiting from it, like, and then you can get to have the Fine Gael and the Fianna Fáil and whatever the politicians, even the Sinn Féiners, get behind the war on drugs. And, oh, look at us, we're great, like, we're going after the criminals, like, us. Happy days, like, this is results, job well done. But it's not. Our communities are suffering as a result of this, because our police are policing them ineffectively. They're targeting people who needn't really be targeted, at least, not for those reasons. Like, go after the car thieves, alright, like, but if they're going after people for just dealing cannabis, like, what a waste of fucking time that is. We'll drive on with another news, guys, and Daily Toker, what's happening, Daily Toker, nice one for that super chat coming in there. He says, dream of times when all will be allowed grow freely. Man, you and me have a very similar dream there as well, hashtag let our people grow. It's important that is at the core of any fight for cannabis legalization, is that we as a people are allowed to grow it, free from restrictions too, I might add. Like, we shouldn't be allowing ourselves to be restricted. Don't be that proverbial elephant chained, where the elephant, where they say he's chained with a small peg and he's held there, and that if you pull the peg up, that the elephant won't stray from outside of his boundaries, because in his own mind he's still pegged to the ground. He's after accepting his position. We shouldn't be like that. No. We need to be outside of that world, that realm of thinking. Like, we don't want to be that elephant. We don't want to confine ourselves to the boundaries created by that world prohibition put us in. No, we need to be allowed to grow cannabis plants unrestricted, like, if like tomatoes, regulate it like grapes, the shout out to the Australians. Like, that's how we need to regulate cannabis, regulate it like grapes. That's it, like, don't discriminate against me because I am growing cannabis. Like, don't tell me how much I should be growing it. Don't tell me how much I should have in my possession. Like, why should you as a government be allowed that, unless you're discriminating against me, unless you're saying you can't trust me, that you must be engaged in some sort of criminal behaviour if you must be doing this sort of stuff. That's what they're saying, and otherwise, I just, that's my views, that's my opinions. Unrestricted access to this plant is what we need to all be campaigning for. Fuck this 4 plants, 6 plants. Don't get me wrong. If I was allowed to grow 4 plants or 6 plants, I'll be a happy camper. But I'll still be campaigning. I'll be still campaigning for unrestricted access. But I'll be happy growing my 6 plants. You know what I mean? But I'll still be campaigning for more. But yeah, I'll drive on with the news, guys, because in other news up there, and County Mayo is back in the news, and County Mayo is actually getting quite a few references there. So I don't know, is it the cheaper land up there or cheaper rent or something? But 2 arrested after drugs worth 130,000 found in County Mayo, and this wasn't really a grow house, was it? I suppose. But when I was saying about the rent and stuff, because there was a couple of grow houses raided up in Mayo in the last few weeks' news as well. But Gardaí have arrested 2 people following the seizure of 130,000 in suspected cannabis herb and cocaine following searches in Mayo area yesterday afternoon. And that's the tweet from Gardaí, again, who love to tweet about their drugs. There was €17,600 in cash also seized up there. But this search was carried out around 4:50 in the cross area of Mayo. And this was on Saturday as part of the ongoing investigation into the sale and supply of drugs in the area. Again, ongoing investigation highlighting wasted resources by our Gardaí, because like even like just having the Mayo Divisional Drugs Unit, like, you know, that's a unit in Mayo. Like surely, does Mayo have a rape unit? Does it? Does Mayo have other like units of crime out there? Like, you know, I wonder. They probably do. Like, so maybe I'm putting my foot in it. But they seized cocaine to be estimated to be worth 89,000 and cannabis worth 16,000 above in Mayo. Also, and that was at one property, and a follow-up search in the Kilmaine area led to the discovery of cocaine valued at €25,000 and 17,600 in cash. A number of mobile phones and other drug paraphernalia were seized at the location. A man and a woman, both aged in their 20s, were arrested under suspicion of the sale and supply of the illegal drugs. They were both taken to Castlebar Garda Station, where they are currently detained under Section 2 of the Criminal Justice Act. Investigations ongoing. All drugs seized will now be sent for further analysis at the Garda Station, or Garda statement said. So again, for Forensic Science Ireland are going to receive an old package, so more wasted money by the state. You know, as I said, Mayo Divisional Drugs Unit, that whole thing is a fucking waste of time. and all of the time spent by the Gardaí doing the search, all completely wasted. And you wonder here, like the people involved in this who are caught, like both in their 20s, they're not the kingpins in this. You wonder, like, you know, they were probably given the drugs on tick, or they're probably holding them. You know, you don't know the situation in this, but the real perpetrators of the drugs trade, they're never being caught because the drugs are always coming, they're always moving, they're always somewhere. You know, and the people they're catching, they're just lackeys. You know. They're just small fry. They're not catching the big fish, and they'll never catch the big fish. And so the game will continue. It will play along until we do something about it, because we are not benefiting from this game. No, we're victims of it. Our communities are victims of it. You know, even our Gardaí are victims of it. They're ineffective in their own duties to keep their communities safe, but they're also at risk. You know, and that's not good at all. So in the final piece of news, guys, I'll drive on and finish up with one more piece of news, and it isn't relating to any seizure of drugs or anything, but it's in relation to the CBD industry, man. The CBD industry is fucking a shit show. Chanelle McCoy, pictured here, you know, and who the hell is Chanelle McCoy, right? CBD will be as common as caffeine. The market is exploding. So apparently she's some bigwig from Dragon's Den or something like this. Some name. The wife of a jockey. Is that why she's famous? I don't know. Anyway, like, but anyway, like she got involved in the cannabis market, and she won't call it the cannabis market. She won't, because she's a fucking torag. And sorry, like, but like I just don't know what else to call her, man. She gets into, and I just really like. And why I say she's a torag, right? She says she got into to leave the family drug business and to pursue cannabidiol because of Vera Twomey, the medicinal cannabis campaigner who walked across the country in 2017 to protest against the lack of treatment in Ireland for her sick daughter. But you know what, like, what really annoys me in this, like, and why I call her a Torag is because she won't even mention cannabis in her article, like, in her piece, like. And like, the only mention of cannabis is the fact that she doesn't use cannabis in the making of her CBD products. So she's a phony. Like, she's just another one of these people, like, you know, like, she's a money maker. She's seen an opportunity, like, you know. Like, I was inspired by a mother and her sick child who needed access to a life-saving medicine to set up a company that is in no way related at all really to her, because Vera Twomey's battle for access wasn't for CBD. It was for cannabis. So stop, like, really, like, you shouldn't. And sorry, like, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. Like, if Vera endorses this, if she's okay with this, fair enough, that's her opinion. But for me, really, like, it's terrible, like, man, to be using a very sick patient and a prominent cannabis campaigner to try to put your business up there on a pedestal when your business is ashamed of the plant so far as that you go to make your cannabis from what do you make your cannabis from? You extract it from what is it? It's synthesized, actually. It's a synthesis CBD derived from a citrus plant. So there you go. Like, it's actually made in some other sort of plant. It's synthesized, so it's a lab derived plant from a citrus plant. Whatever that actually means, I don't understand the process there. But they isolate it. What you're getting is a complete isolate of CBD from the plant. I think I have a picture of our company up here. 1 second, I might be able to pop it up on screen for you. Yeah, 1 second, I'm going to move that over. So here you go. This is her company, Purus, Ultra Pure CBD. So Ultra Pure, it's an isolated form of it. And it's backed by clinical studies, and the only reason it's backed by clinical studies is because it's pretty much a drug. Like, it's just CBD derived and isolated. It's a pure chemical on its own. It doesn't have any of the extra complementary compounds from the plant. So it's substandard, actually, is what it is in terms of a CBD product. Now, if you're some sort of athlete out there and you need it for whatever drug test reasons, you know, there's reasons why people will choose this type of product. Because, again, if you're going to Dubai, maybe, you don't want any fucking traces of THC at all in your product. So it does have its advantages in regards to that. But again, really, like, you know, it's another one of these fucking, I don't know, man, like, they're just jumping on the bandwagon, the gravy train, like, why aren't they supporting wider access to cannabis, the cannabis plant? If they really believe in the benefits of the cannabis plant and CBD, they'd be calling for wider access to the cannabis plant. But it doesn't benefit them, because you know what, if you were able to grow cannabis out your back garden, Chanelle McCoy would have no interest in this. She wouldn't. She'd fuck off back to whatever it was she was doing there. Like, you know, maybe I don't know. I'm not going to pick on the woman. Sorry, look, I'm going to leave her off now at this point. But anybody else out there who's getting into a business like this, there's no money in it from them at that point, because there's only money in it if you can't grow that plant out your back garden, if you can't make your own extracts. Because if you can make your own extracts, these fucking, I don't know, man, these scumbags, like, they can't sell it to you at the price they're trying to sell it to you for. They really can't. The value of it really will go down. And people like herself, like even the David Beckham went away and he invested in another company that was making it and extracting it from some sort of yeast cells. I think they were growing up yeast cells in a lab and extracting CBD from that. Again, it was aimed at athletes, actually. That one specifically was for. But I don't know. I just don't really like this stuff, man. If this woman really meant what she said, that she was inspired by Vera Twomey, she wouldn't have made a company like this at all. Like, no, she would be out there fighting for the wider access to the cannabis plant in order to make the most effective medicines, or the most effective products, actually, that could help a child like Ava. And those products are full spectrum cannabis products. Those are not a fucking citrus plant extract, you know, whatever sort of nonsense you come up with, you know. And Archie, nice one, Archie, for your donation again. As always, Archie, you're a super supporter of the show. He says, "Hi Martin, is there a website/Excel sheet where I can view the protest sign-ups and locations in my area?" Yeah, there'll be something like that up there tomorrow. So I will be releasing something like that there tomorrow. Again, a week out from the event tomorrow. So I'll do that there tomorrow, just to highlight where people will be holding events and where there's still a need for other people to be holding their own events. And again, guys, just to remind people, I'm hoping that we can have at least a 32 county protest, at least one protest in each county. And all protests are will not be excluded. If it's just you going down into your town square, just you yourself holding up a placard, man, that's a protest. Don't get me wrong, that's a protest. If it's you want to just do a Facebook Live or something like that in your own town or county, happy days, that's a protest too. Like, I would love to see more people going. I just want to tick all of those 32 counties off the list. So that's it, guys, for today. Much appreciated to everybody who's after tuning in for today's show. I see quite a number of you out there, 40 of you on YouTube, guys. Wow, what a big audience. 15 over on Facebook, and we got the lonely Twitch watcher as always. There's always like one or two over on Twitch. I got to work on trying to build that audience up. But I appreciate each and every one of you guys and all your comments coming in as well. I'm going to take a couple of minutes there to get through your comments. And me belly is rumbling, guys, and I can smell dinner downstairs. Or at least I hope I can smell dinner downstairs. So I'll be going down to that. Oh, something smells nice down there anyway. Paul Lefwick says, being called a criminal for growing pot is bad because the professional knows more than a few years in college beginner. Yeah, man, that's very fucking true, man. It's so fucking true. I was actually in relation to that, I suppose, just thinking of college. I was in a lecture today. It was a workshop where we were getting an online tour of pharmaceutical facilities in Ireland. Today's was with Regeneron, and this was my 6th one now. And I have to tell you this, each and every one of those workshops with those companies, I wanted to ask a question, and I'll tell you, I didn't ask it because of stigma. I was fearful of stigma from my own classmates and from the others out there. I believe that in some of the calls there was upwards of 70, 80 people in attendance, and at the Q&A sections afterwards, like, I wanted to ask a question, and the question I wanted to ask is, do you drug test potential employees? And is a conviction for drugs an exclusion from for hiring a person? And I didn't ask that question 6 out of 7 of my workshops. And this morning I built up the courage to ask that question. And I just want to share that with people because, as I'm on here with you, like, you would think like, oh, this guy's balls of steel. He goes out and protests there at Micheál Martin's office, goes into the guard station. I don't. I face the stigma every day. I feel it, and it does hold me back at times. And I am ashamed to admit it in some sense, but like, I'm not ashamed. Yeah, I'm not fearful of admitting it either. Like, I think it's important that I admit it to you as well, like, so that you notice that I do too battle overcoming the stigma myself. As prominent as I am, as open and as out there as I am, I still held back by the stigma. I still feel it. And I have to tell you, like, I had that question up on the screen there this morning for about like 5 minutes, 10 minutes before I hit send. And I could feel my heart rate change. I could feel like my blood pressure go up. I could feel the heat kind of rise in my body. And the question went out, I hit send, and I was like, that's it, it's out there now, can't undo it. And she answered it. And Joe, she said, like, the person who was answering, and I believe she was with the HR department as well, so it was a relevant person to be answering. And she kind of, I know she danced around it in a way, like, because the way she asked it, she's like, well, when we hire people, it's done by a third party, and the third party who hires people for us does a rigorous medical inspection of potential employees, and they also do a thorough background check on all potential employees. And she said, that's all I'm going to say on that matter. And that was it. That was my answer. That was it. Like, literally, like, I mean it now, weeks building up to this. Like, I thought I might have got like maybe a bit more of an answer from him or something, like, or to investigate further. I know she actually says, and that's all I'm going to say on that. In other words, stop asking me these fucking awkward questions. Like, this is a shitty. She would much prefer to talk about COVID, talk about uptime, downtime, or all sorts of nonsense. Like, But that was for me. Like, I lose interest when I was on those workshops, because for me, at the back of my mind, I always tell myself, I always believe I'll never be hired by these companies. Those companies will never hire a criminal like me. That's what I tell myself. That's how I feel. That's how I see myself. I'm a criminal. I'm not worthy of a job at these companies. And a lot of the time, just that feeling alone, that turns me off even applying. Do you know? And I just think that's important to share with you guys. The stigma, I do feel it, like, and it's not a nice feeling, man. It's not a nice feeling, and it fuels the fire, the passion that you see here every week on 420 News and on the Martin's World, because it's not a nice feeling. Like, I don't like being ashamed of who I am, and it's not nice. None of us should. I don't believe I'm alone in this. I'd imagine there's many people out there like this as well, and yeah. Mandy Lou Dawson, she says, why in the name of God do they spend so much needless money trying to better Mother Nature with synthetic crap? Mandy, you and me, I don't understand it either. I suppose it's because they see the potential to make so much profit, because you or I, we're not allowed to grow this plant. We're not allowed to benefit from what's God given to us. Like, it's in there in the Bible, and I'm not a big believer in the Bible or anything like that, but look, some people respect it, and it says God gave us every plant or fruit-bearing seed and plants to use for our needs and desires. Paraphrasing, that's not the exact word, and hence I don't really read the Bible, but I just know it's in there in some capacity. But yeah, Mother Nature, man, it's been denied to us, like, and this is why people are willing to spend so much, because it's so beneficial for us, because Mother Nature intended us to get it, and we're not getting it. We're all fucking cannabis deficient out there, and these companies are going to make a hell of a lot of money trying to sell it back to us. As Chanelle McCoy says, like, that cannabis is going to be in, I'm not going to paraphrase her here now, I'm going to actually get what she says. Sorry, no. Yeah, she says it's going to be in cookies and tea bags, and it's going to be in every supermarket and high street available across Ireland. And sorry, I did end up paraphrasing her there. But yeah, that people like them, man, they don't support their businesses anyway. And look, unless you're an athlete and you need it for that specific reason, you need isolated CBD. But if you're a person out there and you need the benefits of CBD, guys, you want full spectrum extract. You want all those entourage chemicals or compounds in there that add to the entourage effect, that really maximize the potential of the cannabis plant. You don't want just CBD on its own, unless for some crazy reason, unless you're going to Dubai. Daily Talker says, this synthesized CBD nonsense reminds me of carbon capture plants aren't real biological plants, not the best carbon capture plants. Yeah, man, real plants 100% are the best fucking carbon capture. Sorry, just cleaning my bowl. Who else is out there? What's happening? Sean says, I have a dream. Everyone starts up whatever cannabis hemp related business they want. Pay your taxes. Just name it something differently. Yeah, well, that's another way to go as well. Like, but I don't know. Why would you like? Yeah, I suppose pay your taxes. Yeah, I suppose that is true. Like, you could set up like but then they'll be calling you a front and say you're laundering money or something like that. Like, and they'll do you for money laundering, which is an even worse crime, because you'll have the revenue after you then. Like, and apparently from I hear you don't want the revenue after you, man. Apparently they're worse than the fucking drug squad. So maybe that's not the best thing to do, but certainly people should set up associations and not-for-profit cannabis grow-ops. That is certainly something people should be doing, and call it whatever you want then. Yeah, fuck it. Like, that's because it's in our rights. It's our human right to do this stuff, and that's the way we should fight for it. Non-profit, harm reduction, protest. Those are the three key things to keep at the core of any cannabis association if you're setting it up, and high quality cannabis. Adrian, what's happening? Adrian says, bless up. What's happening, Adrian, man? Hope you're well, dude. Sean says, yup, Martin, keep it up. I will indeed, Sean. He said, sprinkled thousands of hemp seeds around Dublin. Oh no, I'm getting a big rush of fucking comments. So yeah, Sean was sprinkling thousands of seeds there around Dublin, and I'm after losing your comment there, Sean, so apologies, man, I can't finish off reading it. I just got a big stream of comments. I must have got a few frames dropped. I'm going to blaze one up, and then I'm going to get through a couple of more comments, guys, and then I will sign off in precisely 5 minutes. So if you want your comment right out, guys, get it in there now. 4 minutes and 20 seconds left. Free the weed. What's I'm on Shore Fudge says definitely going to do a vid on 420 in Carricktown. Good turnout, blessed all. Free the weed. Yes, free the weed. Well done, man, Shore, man. Happy days. Good to hear that Carricktown is going to have its own 420 protest. Paul Effick says the medical field of cannabis should also study stinging nettle and tomatoes might be more medicines because they are related. Also, doctors should study human production of cannabinoids in the brain. So that's, yeah, the endocannabinoids in the brain, and some people might be healthy. Weight production study why. Sorry, it lost me there on the end. Some employees would be better working on cannabis. Some are less stressed, and cannabis is anti-inflammatory medicine for injuries. That's probably one of the most beneficial things for people, because a lot of people's pain is actually stemmed in inflammatory issues. So yeah, that's certainly one of the key aspects of the way in which cannabis works for people, anti-inflammatory. Josh Cockwell says, good point for you to go on. Cannabinoids are naturally in breast milk. Why isn't it included in baby formula? Can't seem to get my head around that. Man, that's very true, actually. Anandamide, the bliss molecule in the human body, which is one of the endocannabinoids, yeah, that is transferred from mother to baby in breastfeeding. Yeah, that's actually very interesting. I never thought of that myself, actually, until just now. I often thought about the transfer of cannabinoids to the baby, and I always knew that was an important part of it. But yeah, why isn't that incorporated maybe into baby breastfeeding formula? And I wonder, could maybe very, very micro doses, like tiny amounts of THC even, maybe be beneficial to the developments of babies? I wonder. All the time we hear from the research field that, like, cannabis will affect the development of a human brain, but maybe it changes it for the better rather than worse. Because they only ever in these studies talk about, no, it changes the development of the brain, but it doesn't really say whether the changes is overall negative or bad. So I wonder, like, yeah, that's an interesting one. All right. Johnny Keenan says they're criminals, Martin, monitoring people and doing background checks, stigmatizing us. Man, that's why I probably wouldn't want to work for them. Although I do, like, is like, oh man, you should hear the benefits that these jobs get. Like, that they're really cool places to work. Like, I can see why some people would give up cannabis to go work there. Like, you get fucking health insurance, man. You know what I mean? That they have gyms down there on site. Oh man, there's so many things, like the list goes on. I wish they didn't discriminate against people like me, because I really would love to go and work in an industry that develops medicines that helps people, albeit a pharmaceutical one, but I don't care which one. I would love to see it be a cannabis one that has also the same benefits. But yeah, don't be lured in, I suppose, like the carrot and stick. I'm not giving up cannabis for them, fuck them. Fight the power. Eleanor Simmons, cannabis co-ops is a great idea. Nice one, Eleanor. I hope people set them up. It's a free idea out there for anybody to go and use it, guys. And I think it's a great way to fight for your rights to grow this plant. If you're going to grow cannabis, grow it not for profit. not for profit, grow it cooperatively with a number of people. Hopefully, maybe some of those people might even be patients, and you can grow cannabis for those people. And then if you ever get caught, just fight it out in court. Fight it on the human grounds aspect that you weren't profiteering. It was a protest. It was harm reduction. Those three things, you know what I mean? Everybody's entitled to defend themselves, i.e. harm reduction. That's defending yourselves. You don't want to be exposing yourselves to criminals. You don't want to be exposing yourselves to all the harmful compounds that could be put into cannabis when you don't know how it's grown. These are all the arguments you could be using, guys, you know, so it's out there for anybody to go and do this, and I do encourage more people to do this sort of thing. Start up your own little communities, guys. Power in numbers, like, always remember that, power in numbers. All of you be ready to go down with your grower. Support your grower, whoever it might be, and I think that'll change the way things are shaping up then here in Ireland. Dar Patrick says 501 not for profit, MC 1% are clubs sell merch and don't pay tax as they are registered as 501. I didn't know that, man. Yeah, I suppose, well, isn't all medicine exempt from taxes? Yeah, at least that would be here in Ireland anyway, I'd imagine. Daily Talker says, how does one get free weed to those in need? I would happily grow a plant or two for the cause. Yeah, well, there you go, man. It's easy. Head over to Percy's Grow Room if you want to find out how to grow some cannabis. And High on Homegrown's out there, he says, laugh aloud, hit that shit, bro. Yes, man, I did. I hit that shit. And I'll be signing off in a couple of seconds. Oh, and before I do, guys, at UCC, oh my God, how did I forget? I actually should have opened with this one, guys. In about 45 minutes, the UCC SSDP are going to be holding a very good event. It's going to be an event with, I'm going to put it up on screen there for you guys, and I had it up again there the other day, but I'll just get it up on screen there again in a couple of seconds for you. But it's going to be an event with a number of politicians from here in Cork and further afield, also including Gino Kenny, Luke Ming Flanagan. It's got Colm Burke, it's got James Lawless from Fianna Fáil, Colin Burke is from Fine Gael, and it's got Aidan O'Riordan then as well from Labour, and as I said, Gino Kenny from People Before Profit, and Luke Ming Flanagan, who is an MEP. So I think that's going to be up on screen. Yeah, there you go. Now that's up on screen for you there now. And there is the event. That's on this evening, 6 p.m, guys. So this is going to be a great event. It'll be a really good one. So if you got the time at 6 o'clock this evening, go check this out. If you're watching this later on after this live has happened, well, apologies, you might have missed a great event. Hopefully, I'm going to get them to record this event this evening, actually. Hopefully, that shouldn't be an issue, and it'll be up there then for people to catch afterwards, because I think this is a good one. It's been a while since we've seen a Fianna Fáil, Fine Gaeler, and kind of out there to be questioned about drug policy in Ireland. So again, as I say, an important one. Don't miss this, guys. And guys, I'm going to start signing off there in the next 10 seconds. So thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure to bring today's show to you. And I see a few of the UCC committee are out there again in the audience. At least Jade's mom is out there as well. So hello, Jade's mom. Hope you're doing very good this evening. And she's after putting the link to this evening's event actually up there in the comments of Facebook. So if people are out there on YouTube or Twitch, head over to Facebook. You'll be able to find the link on the comments, or if you want to just drop me a DM, I'll be able to send that link to you also, because I have it here now on screen too. So yeah, guys, that's it. I'll be back on Wednesday with some more 420 news, guys, and yes, as always, guys, stay blazed out there and keep her lit. Much love and peace, guys.